I will never shut up about breech birth not being dangerous. It is a variation of normal. All of our providers should be trained in breech. You deserve that. We deserve that as women. We deserve that as people who are growing our families. Your babies deserve the chance to be born breech and not be forced into a surgical birth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Birth Lounge podcast. Happy November, you guys. I know it may feel a little bit early, but I wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up about our Black Friday sale because this is one of only 2 sales that we do every single year. And I want to be super transparent with you. I don't run sales on the Birth Lounge except for Mother's Day and Black Friday because, to be completely honest, the Birth Lounge is priced fairly. So there's very little room that I have to run a sale and still be able to have a business, to be completely honest. I don't actually inflate my prices because I want this information to be accessible to everybody year round. And so that's why I don't have a lot of sales. We literally run a sale on Mother's Day to say thank you to you guys, and then again on Black Friday for anybody who missed the Mother's Day sale or has gotten pregnant between Mother's Day and now the end of the year. So I give you 2 chances to get into the Birth Lounge at a little bit of a reduced price, but other than that, there are no sales. Now, let me tell you about the Birth Lounge because it is literally unhinged. It is like nothing else you're going to find out there on the market. And that is the way that we are able to have the results that we have. We have people that literally walk away with absolutely zero birth trauma, and they achieve all of their birth goals, and they have no tearing. They push for less than 30 minutes, and the best one yet is that we have just a 3% C-section rate. Yeah, I am able to help you truly go into the hospital system, navigate the conversations with your provider, stay in control from start to finish, and avoid unwanted interventions and unnecessary things like an unnecessary C-section or an unnecessary induction. So how can this be? Well, I'm teaching you the control method, which is going to help you understand all of the aspects of labor that are within your control, and then we're going to teach you how do you control them. The problem that I find with a lot of traditional childbirth ed classes is that they just teach you your options. They say, well, you can have this or you can have that, and these are what your options are. But then when you get in the hospital system, you find that you're getting pushback from staff, or you are feeling like you don't really have those options, or maybe you're feeling pressured and you don't know how to navigate those conversations. That's exactly what I teach you how to do. I'm deconstructing all of those barriers, those road bumps, those things that hold you up from actually achieving your goals, because just knowing your options is not enough. The Birth Lounge is a comprehensive course. So when you go with the Birth Lounge, you will not need any other form of preparation when it comes to preparing for your birth. Inside the Birth Lounge, you are going to learn stages of labor, the ins and outs of navigating the hospital system, how to engage in respectful collaborative conversation with your medical team, pain relief options, labor positions, pushing positions, how to reduce tearing, how do you avoid things like induction, C-section, and unnecessary interventions? And finally, how do you advocate for your goals so that you can say yes to the things that matter to you? You can request alternatives when that's appropriate, and you can decline things that don't feel good to you. Plus, in the lifetime membership, you're going to get free access to our Dad Days course, which is a comprehensive course made for male partners to help them understand how can they best support you in pregnancy? What is their role in labor and delivery? How do they advocate for you? How can they keep you comfortable and provide pain relief during the birth experience? And then finally, what is their role in postpartum and how do they help you navigate this new space of becoming a mom in the best way possible? You're also going to get access for free for our secret sauce to pushing. This is where I teach you how to achieve those results I talked about in the beginning. Pushing for less than 30 minutes, avoiding tearing, and really understanding what muscles to engage to properly push your baby out. First of all, your pelvic floor does not push your baby out. That lady needs to yield out of the way. So what muscles do you use? That's exactly what I'm teaching you in the secret sauce to pushing. And yes, I'm teaching you how to push with an epidural and without an epidural. Don't worry, I don't really care how you birth your baby. I want you to be equipped no matter what pops up in your labor because this is your birth. I want you to choose how you want to do it. My job is to make sure that no matter what choice you make, you feel empowered in doing that. You're also going to get one of my number one downloads, which is our scripts for advocacy. This is an entire packet of the most common conversations that you're going to face in labor and in the end of pregnancy that often start you down this slippery slope of handing over your control. Not only do I provide you with the evidence to have these conversations, but I'm actually giving you the words to have these conversations, i.e. the scripts for advocacy. In addition to that, you're going to get all of my PDF guides, partner guides, epidural guides, induction cheat sheets, and my brand new Birthing Your Big Ass Baby course where I step you through the actual data of truly evaluating whether your baby is going to be quote unquote big or not. What does ACOG say? What does the AAP say? And what are the true medical recommendations when it comes to suspected macrosomia, i.e. a big baby? I think you might be surprised to learn that less than 1% of all babies in the U.S. are born truly meeting the criteria for macrosomia. So why are inductions and C-sections so common? Well, that's exactly what I'm teaching you in the Birthing Your Big Ass Baby course, and I'm going to teach you how you can decline those if they don't feel aligned to you. And finally, probably my favorite perk of the lifetime membership is you get a box that is handpicked by me, curated to help you have your best birth possible. This is a birth box that includes all of my favorite things, not only that I have used for the last 10 years to help women achieve their best birth, but the same tools that I'm using in my own birth. Things like a TENS unit, a rebozo, a comb for pain relief, self-care items, breastfeeding items, and so much more. One of my favorite things is actually the fuzzy socks. I love them. They're so soft. Oh my gosh. This box is packed with goodies. It's worth over $120, and I'm sending it to you because I want you to be equipped to have the absolute most glorious and joyous birth experience that you possibly can. And I know that you can't do that without having the proper tools. And so not only do I teach you how to use those in the birth lounge, but I'm gifting them to you because I want them to be part of your birth bag. So for 5 days only, on November 24th through the 28th, you will be able to take advantage of our lifetime membership and $150 off. You can visit thebirthlounge.com/join to take advantage of this special Black Friday deal. Again, 5 days only, November 24th through the 28th, using code BF25 at thebirthlounge.com/join. Again, that code is BF25, 5 days only, thebirthlounge.com/join. Do not miss out on this. If you miss this sale, you'll have to wait till Mother's Day. I genuinely cannot wait to help you have your best birth possible. I'll see you in the lounge. Bye. All right, you guys. Do you know how rare it is to have a breech baby? Well, I mean, most babies are head down, right? We kind of know this. Now, breech is obviously a variation of normal, and the whole debate is that because they do happen, providers, OBGYNs, midwives, should have the skills to deliver these babies. But what are the chances that you have a breech baby and then your next baby is also breech? And then what about the baby after that? And then what about a fourth breech baby? And then what if I told you that our guest today has actually had 5 breech births? Is that insane? Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, you better buckle up because today's episode is absolutely mind blowing. This has got to be one of my favorite episodes because I think it really is not only a story of normalizing breech birth, but it is such a great example of what can happen when you have truly collaborative care between you and your healthcare team. Today's guest, Jessica Gray, or as you may know her, at Breech Birth on Instagram, is a first responder, an EMT, and a social media community organizer, mom of 6, a wife, and a breech birth advocate. 5 out of Jessica's 6 children have been born breech, naturally in 2 different countries. Jessica created an online community that has proved invaluable to women globally who have found out that their babies are presenting breech and they're looking to explore their options and how to navigate for their birth goals. Jessica has provided women who are desperately looking for resources and encouragement with an encouraging community to help them remain in control of the decisions made around their birth. Jessica also shares her advocacy for breech birth through speaking engagements and appearances on popular birth podcasts. Currently, she's working on writing a guide to breech birth for moms. In today's episode, Jessica is going to talk us through all 6 of her births. Now, her first baby was head down, but after that, every single one of her children decided to remain head up. Her first breech baby was actually the first breech baby born in that hospital in 15 years. We're also going to dive into her experience with having an ECV and then deciding to change to home birth and what that journey looked like. It was not easy peasy, and it was filled with a lot of really intense decision making. So many times online, it can be portrayed as if making decisions around your birth is just as simple as yes or no, left or right, I decline or I accept. But sometimes it's a lot deeper than that. There's a lot of nuance to the conversations, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made. And there are, in many cases, a lot of moving puzzle pieces where if one puzzle piece goes this way, then it may impact a lot of other puzzle pieces that come later down the line. Jessica is spilling her tips to turning your baby at home and giving out her best advice to moms with breech babies. This is one of the most fun episodes that we've ever had on the show, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with you today. So without further ado, Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
I'm so excited to have you here. You know, I'm a huge fan of breech birth and not like seeing babies come out feet or butt first. That's not what I mean, but like spreading the awareness that breech birth does not have to mean a forced C-section. It doesn't have to mean scary, uncontrollable. All of my birth plans go out of the window. I don't have any choice or options. And it certainly doesn't have to mean what the traditional medical setting makes us think, which is danger, scary, fear. You could totally have empowered breech births, and you have had 5 of them. And I'm
Yep.
so excited to hear your breech birth stories. But before we do that, I want to hear actually your first birth story, which you don't talk a lot about because she was head down.
Yeah. Yes. My first baby, head down. She did have an interesting birth though, right? Like total gray family style. She couldn't be, completely conventional. And her difference was At 35 weeks, my water broke. So, first baby, pregnancy's going just perfect. I mean, if I could go back and do that pregnancy 1,000 times, I was so young. I was like 24 and everything was just top notch. And then my water breaks at 35 weeks. And I think the number he is like 90% or something. At the time, the stat could be different now, of babies where the water breaks within 24 hours labor starts. Well, I was in that little window of labor did not start. So they sent me to the hospital and labor still did not start. Now we're at 48 hours. Now we're pushing 72 hours. Now they're starting to talk induction because they're thinking, we don't want to leave you. I was slightly dilated. We don't want to leave you with broken water, slightly dilated for too long. And that was on a Thursday, my water broke. And now we're at Sunday and it's Mother's Day. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to have my baby on Mother's Day. But I've also been sitting at the hospital waiting for this baby for days and days and days. And because my water had broken, they put me on the maternity ward because they didn't want me in pediatrics or anywhere where I could pick something up in the hospital. So they put me on the maternity ward. So for days, I'm sitting there listening to new baby cries, just waiting. When is she coming? When is she coming? She finally came. We didn't need an induction. It was about 7 hours of labor. And all I knew was I didn't want a C-section. I wanted to try to have my baby. Got to almost the 7-hour mark and I hit the point where I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't do another contraction, right? I said to my doula and my husband, that's it. I quit. I can't do another contraction. But I don't want a C-section. And they got the nurse and the nurse came in and she said, oh, honey, you're at over 9.5 centimeters. There's no way you would be having a C-section anyway. Doctor manually dilated me the last half a centimeter. Mm-hmm. And then she came out and she was 5 pounds, 12 ounces. And the NICU team was on site to whisk her away if they needed to. They said she looks great, give her to mom. And it was like a whirlwind. I had this tiny little baby on me after 4 days of sitting in the hospital.
Okay, that's kind of crazy. I do have a couple of questions. First and foremost, what the hell with the manual dilation? Excuse me?
Yeah.
What did that
Yeah.
feel like? Was it like
Yeah.
hellacious?
Oh, it was awful. It was awful because if you think about it, that's the whole thing your body's doing is slowly attempting to dilate. And then for someone to just go in and be like, boom, that was, yeah, that was intense.
Yeah. Okay. Any idea why your water broke early at 35 weeks?
So we've discussed that many times over the last 17 and a half years. And I think the conclusion that we've come to is once we learn to have a bicornate uterus, so there's a septum at the top, there's a little divot. Our estimation, and it's not the most professional estimation, is that potentially there was some Braxton Hicks that pushed the septum and maybe it just in the squeezing of it or in the shape of my uterus, it somehow anatomically created that situation and my water broke.
Maybe a little preparation of the amniotic sac from that divot. So for anyone that's just listening and you're not able to see the visuals, bicornate uterus is actually shaped kind of like a heart. So how a heart goes down in the middle to create that point at the top. And that's kind of what those uteruses look like. It's so interesting. Okay, and
Yeah,
then
and the septum can be all the way down.
yeah.
There's so many varying degrees, but mine is just a heart shape. It's not any further than that.
Yeah. They often, what I know about them, are associated with breech birth. So that makes so much sense why you have so many breech babies. All right,
Yeah.
my last question about this birth is at 35 weeks, it sounded like you still stayed home for the first like 24 hours or so. Did you?
No. So
No,
I
okay.
went into my hospital to talk to my OB and they were like, "Oh no, we got to transport her right away." I mean, we're going back some years now, so that's how they did it then. But they weren't like, "Oh, we're going to send you home and you just, once labor starts come back in." They were like, "We're expecting labor to begin any moment. let's get her in. She's so early. We're going to send her to a different town, to a hospital that's ready with a NICU in case baby's lungs aren't quite there yet. So, yeah, no,
Yeah.
they whisked me away. And my husband went home to get my birth bag and came back, and I was gone in an ambulance.
Oh,
Poor
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. That must have been a little scary. Okay, just for anyone listening being like, how's the data change? It hasn't. So if you go into labor before 37 weeks, that is still the norm. It is recommended that you go straight to the hospital and you don't attempt to labor at home because that is considered technically a preterm birth. It's not super duper preterm. And there's a lot of cases where people have babies at 35 weeks, and just like you, Jessica, their baby comes out perfectly healthy and they don't need a NICU stay and they just hand them right over to the mom. But it is recommended that anytime before 37 weeks that you do go straight to the hospital. So unfortunately, if you wanted to labor, that would be one of those things where, you may not necessarily get that. Okay. Fast forward how many years and you're pregnant again with your second?
Okay, so 2 years.
Okay.
I'm ready to give birth with my second baby. I'm about 36 weeks within that, between 35 and 37 weeks. And my OB says, your baby's breech. So I know a lot of women have been in this situation before where you're finding out kind of near the end and it's a big surprise. You weren't expecting this. Now you're told your baby is upside down or right side up, however you want to look at it. So as serendipitous as it was, my OB had trained in breech, both in Northern Africa and in Sweden. So he just was telling me this, and I said, well, can I still have the baby naturally? And he said, yeah. I'm like, okay. So what do I need to do? And he said, well, you need to believe that you can do it. You need to want to do it. And then we can talk about it. And so he wanted to hear what my motivation was and if I was all in. And I was 100% all in. And I trusted him. And we talked through what does it mean to actually have your baby breech? What do you think about it? And he said, well, I do this hands off breech thing. And I didn't, at this point, I had no idea. Like, what does that even mean? Like, hands off breech? Is he not going to catch my baby? Like, I had no clue, right? So he was all in. I was all in. We discussed it. And the only hiccup was he said, we're actually going to have to kind of schedule this because at the hospital where I had babies, if your doctor wasn't on call, you got whoever's on call. And all the other doctors, it would be instant C-section. So he was about to go away on vacation. It's like, get in with him. You're going to have to come in. He's going to have to break your water. You're going to have to go in labor right away. Otherwise, this isn't happening this way. So once again, it was a Thursday. Went in. He broke my water. And now I'm just sitting waiting for labor to start. In my historical knowledge of this, it's going to take 4 days. And within about an hour, I'm feeling so crampy. We've been walking, me and my doula and my husband, the emergency ramp outside in the parking lot. It's only been an hour and a half, and I'm like, I think I need to push. I think I need to push. And I think I'm crazy. I don't believe myself that I need to push. So I say to my husband, I think we need to go inside. I think I need to push. We go back inside. He goes and knocks on the nurse's break room. And he's like, I think Jessica needs to push. They're like, she doesn't need to push. She absolutely doesn't need to push. Now, no one had had a breech baby in this hospital for over 15 years. So none of the staff had ever seen a breech baby be born, and they hadn't been trained in it. So already they had me hooked up to an IV just in case. Like, they had me prepped for an IV. I wasn't totally hooked up yet, but I was prepped just in case something happened. And my doctor was upstairs in the OR doing a C-section. So all of the nurses were kind of like, that's the breech baby lady over there. And when he's done his C-section, he'll come down, right? So here, Jason, my husband, I think she needs to push. They're like, she doesn't need to push. They come in, the nurse goes, sit back and put your legs up. And I do. And then she's like, there's a bomb! There's a bomb! She loses her mind, okay? And then now I have residents, I have students coming in, I have nurses coming in. Everybody who walks by me looks at me and then just, oh God. And
Freaks out. I mean,
yeah,
they're scared.
They're looking at me, they're freaked at what they see. So then I'm like, I feel like I'm in the movie Alien. Like anybody who walks by sees an alien. So they end up calling the OR. No answer in the OR. He's in the middle of the C-section. They can't get him. They don't know what to do. They're just saying to me, don't push. Don't push. No one's saying this is how you don't push. They're just yelling at me not to push. And they call the emergency room doctor. He walks in, he walks right out. No one wants to touch me. Finally, the nurse picks up the phone to the OR and just is like, get that down here. He comes in, my doctor, and just brings peace into the room. He has an apron on from the OR. I guess he must have switched it. It wasn't obviously the same one, but he had been wearing this apron, tucks it under my butt, and just says, push whenever you want to push. And in two pushes, my baby's out.
Oh my God. Okay, imagine if your whole room had just been that calm and had just said, like, Jessica, just follow your body. You've got this. You're doing it. Like, just imagine the different, you're like smiling and laughing. It doesn't
Yeah,
feel like
because it
you have
actually
like
was
a ton of
beautiful.
trauma from it.
I don't have trauma from it
Oh?
because it actually was beautiful because it didn't take probably too long for him to get down there. It was probably like 15 minutes. It felt like 2 hours, right? But finally, when he was down there, the PC brought into the room, and then he said, right after my baby boy was born, he said, "That was so beautiful. I hope all your other births are breech."
Oh my
And then
God.
him and the nurses went over to the side, and he kind of gave them a clinic on what he did. Yeah, I trampolined the sheet, the apron underneath her to just allow for buoyancy for the legs. Like he was giving them this whole clinic. They were all gobsmacked. That had just happened, and everybody was okay. And so maybe he if things hadn't turned out well, I would have maybe some trauma. But at this point, it's just hilarious to me. Everyone was like, "Oh dear God."
And also the way I love that you pointed out that everyone was like, don't push, but you're like, how do I do that? And not a single person was offering up advice on like, what do I do instead? Do you remember having this overwhelming feeling of like, I can't stop pushing?
Yes.
Or, okay, so you really weren't able to stop pushing.
It was more, I can feel it when I think about it. It was more just like trying to crawl out of my body so that I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't pushing because my whole body just wanted to push the whole time. So it was like trying to mentally distract. So I was looking at my doula saying, how do I not, like, what do I do? Is he coming? And I kept saying, is he coming? Because I wanted my doctor there. And she kept answering me like, he is coming, he is coming. And afterwards she said, I meant your baby. She's like, I didn't want to lie to you that your doctor wasn't coming. So,
That is so funny. Okay, at this point, you did not know anything about breech birth, right? Like other than what your doctor and you had discussed in your prenatal appointments. But when you were told like your baby is breech, you didn't already have any knowledge or education about it.
right. I'm just, oh, so my baby's not the right way. I knew my mom had come breech. I knew my mom had been a breech baby, but it was just sort of a thing like, oh, that's interesting, I guess. Like, it really didn't mean anything to me. And then I sort of deep dived a little on my own into Google, and that wasn't a good idea. So, no, I didn't have really any idea. And then afterwards, after my son was born, I walked past this room on the way to my recovery room, and I heard my doctor talking to another doctor, and he said, it, it's so crazy that I caught this. He goes, it was all because of mom's motivation.
Hmm.
And he was talking about me. And they put me in a room with a mom who had just had twins and they were breech and she had had a C section. And I asked my doctor later, I said, why didn't you deliver her babies? And he said, she deals with
Wanted.
anxiety and she wouldn't have been able to do it. And that's not a knock on her. It's literally if you're a candidate or not.
Well, yes, and I love to live in the and. I love to live where two things can be true at the same time. I think that so many women choose C-section in the US for breech birth because they actually don't believe that they can do it. And whether that is their own narrative or that's a societal narrative or that's a narrative that their doctor has put on them or friends and family, no matter where the narrative came from, after doing this for 10 years, I've been to 3 breech births. And we have probably had 40 breech babies over the last 10 years. And we had 3 people who were willing to do it.
Yeah.
Which also means that all 3 of those women who decided to do it, they did it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody that went for a breech birth that ended up in a C-section. But I've seen a lot of C-section for breech births because those women didn't even believe that they could do it, and so they didn't even try. And again, like you say, not a knock on them. It's certainly no judgment, but I do get very sad at the narrative that they have been fed, because I believe that if they had your unicorn OBGYN that was like, you can do this,
Yeah.
breech is normal. I
Yeah.
feel really comfortable with it. I'm also confident in you. Are you on board? You're like, yeah, I'm on board. And he's like, great. There's nothing standing in our way.
Yeah.
I believe that out of those 40, we would have seen way more women
Oh, totally.
have breech births.
100%. Totally. That's exactly right.
Did you feel different after your first and your second with a cephalic baby versus a breech baby? And two things specifically come to mind. Mentally, did you feel more invincible? Or physically, were you like one was way easier than the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say definitely my breech baby was easier. He came in an hour and a half from first contraction to he's in my arms. So that was different than the 7 hours and then the days that I was waiting. Also, the days that I was waiting really drained me physically. So I probably didn't enter labor as prepped and ready to go as I
Mhm.
did with my breech baby. So there is a bit of a skew there. But oh, I felt amazing. I didn't even feel tired. I felt, oh my goodness, this is over. My husband said, I didn't even break out the snacks. So there was this sense of like ease that came with the breech baby. And that has just continued. My longest breech births have been 3 hours of contractions, and 2 of them were an hour and a half. So,
Oh my gosh. Hence why you have 6 kids and you just like keep doing it over and over and over again. That's my ideal. I keep joking around that like I hope I just have this like really smooth and easy labor, and I mean, a lot of people will report that they have some trauma from really fast labors. I'll definitely
okay.
recognize that, and I want to hold space for anyone out there listening that had a precipitous labor and you walked away with some trauma of how fast things happened and the lack of space for you to cope with what was going on, for sure. I personally feel very equipped to work with that. And I could see myself being just like you, being like, wow, it's over. I mean, let's get pregnant right now. Like we should do this again. We need to have like 20 children. What are we doing here? Okay, you guys, this I'm like geeking out because this is how I came into this journey of like feeling so in control of my body. And I know some people out there are not going to believe this, but I can truly tell which side I ovulate from. And it's because I truly feel it. Like I am so connected with myself. And it actually came from this temp drop, and I love it. Learning to track your fertility is so much more than just like I do or I don't want to have a baby. This is not any sort of like woo woo thing. I learned exactly what was going on. This makes so much sense because this is what my hormones are doing, right? So for listeners, I know I'm going to get a million messages of people saying like, what do you use? Here's what I do. I do cervical checking. Just anytime I go to the bathroom, I'm checking my cervical mucus, just being aware of it. It's nothing formal in my case, and it's what works for me. And then for a while there, I was waking up to take my temperature and it just wasn't sustainable. So I opted actually for the temp drop, and I love it. It is a thermometer that I slide on my arm before I go to sleep, and it takes all the data points and takes my temperature throughout the night so that I don't have to do the work in the morning. When I wake up, I simply sync it to my phone, and voila, I have all of the graphs and the data points that it has taken throughout the nights on my phone, and it has the data for the past couple weeks and months so that I have nice patterns. I love being able to have that insight into my menstrual health. If you're interested in getting your own temp drop, I will drop a savings code in the show notes for you to grab that. You can save on your purchase of temp drop with the savings code in the show notes. Okay. Did you have your same doula as your first that you had with your second?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Fast forward now how many years and we're pregnant again with your third?
Yeah. So now we're another 2.5 years, and now I'm in a different country. And now I am now I'm in North Carolina, United States, and
Wait.
um
Pause. Where did you have your first two babies?
Ontario, Canada. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
those
So my
were
son was
not
the first.
American babies, or they weren't American births in the in the
No.
U.S. hospital system.
No. They were in the Canadian hospital system, and
Got
my
it.
son marked the first time that a breech baby had been born vaginally in that hospital, and so quite momentous. He has that, on his resume, I guess. And now we're in the States, and it's like, okay, this is a different environment in North Carolina. I don't have my obgyn who has been trained in breech. Nobody around here is trained in breech. I'm not sure if I had it just in my psyche and back of my mind and my heart and my spirit and my soul that my doctor has said, I hope all the rest of your babies are breech. But at this point, I also have the knowledge of my bicornate uterus. So I'm thinking I'm about 12 weeks pregnant, and we decide maybe we should go to a birth center because we know it's automatic C-section here in North Carolina. But I'm thinking I'm probably going to have a breech baby. It's just how I feel. I feel this baby's going to be breech. It's 12 weeks. The baby's this tiny. I'm already like, I think it's going to be breech. So we go to the birth center. It's in South Carolina. It's the closest one. We're on the tour, and they say, any questions? And I just put my hand and I say, does anyone here deliver breech babies? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, we'll talk to you after. And anybody else have any other questions? Afterwards, the midwife comes over to me and she's like, hush, hush. Two of us do. I can give you the name of the other one, or there's me. I said, yes, give me her name. I called up this midwife and said, hi, I'm 12 weeks pregnant. Would you deliver my baby if she's breech? She's like, well, why do you think your baby will be breech? I said, I've already had one, and this is my type of uterus. It could happen again. And lo and behold, we get to the end of the pregnancy, and she ain't spinning. She is bummed down. All mine were Frank breech, HeHe, so they were like in a diver pike position. Up to that point, all of them have been Frank breech. And so she was Frank breech as well. And we went to do an ECV because we were just trying everything. We'll just try everything. We could try spinning her. We could see what happens. We do an ECV, very mild ECV at the birth center. No IV, no ultrasound, just the midwife manually seeing what she. Is there any manipulation? And there was zero movement, and it was not comfortable. So we just canned it immediately that I'm not a candidate for this. This doesn't work for my body. The babies know. I know. We love this. Let's go for the breech baby. Yeah, and I had her on my hands and knees on the bed at the birth center in an hour and a half. And the position was crazy for me because before I've been on my back with my legs up. So I'm now feeling like I need to push. And I say to my midwife, like, what should I do? She goes, have your baby. And I'm like, but how do you want me? Do you want me like on all fours? Do you want me standing up? She's like, however it feels good for your body. I want you to go. I want you to do this. And that freedom was mind blowing.
Okay. Why do you think your midwives were so hush hush about the breach? Why was it a secret? Because you were in North Carolina and it's a little frowned upon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that they
We were in South
legally?
Carolina, but
Oh,
yes,
South
it,
Carolina.
it is that way in North Carolina as well. So it's kind of like, we're not going to advertise that we do this. We're going to talk to you about it on the side.
And do you think they legally weren't supposed to be attending breech births, or do you think it was more just like frowned upon?
I think both. I think more that the legal side,
Mm-hmm.
because I know even at that birth center specifically, there was even like, hey, if you need to get into a, I don't know if I should be saying this, but if you need to go to a hotel and we'll bring the oxygen tank up the back stairwell, we'll do it. You know what I mean? It's like these midwives are doing what they have to do, like the Israeli midwives in the Bible. Like, we're just going to get these babies born. And at this point in North Carolina, though, if you go to get the birth certificate, the town I live in, anyways, they're like, oh, you had your baby at home, unplanned, no problem. I mean, what?
Oops, baby came
Yeah.
faster than
Oh,
what I planned.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoopsie. Okay, how was the ECV? You talked about like it wasn't comfortable and it wasn't quote unquote successful. I don't really love that term, but it didn't we weren't able to turn the baby. How was that experience? Which, for anyone that has had an ECV in the hospital, you're describing a very different experience.
Yes, I am. And it's probably one of the questions I get asked, probably the top 5 questions I get asked by people
Wow.
on Instagram or whatever. Should I try to spin my baby in? Should I do an ECV? And I say it's very personal question,
Mm-hmm.
personalized,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm never going to tell someone, no, don't do it. Because if you really feel you'd like to try, there has been, I know the word success isn't great, but there has been the outcome where your baby has spun. But truly, HeHe, I trust how my baby is. My baby has chosen this position. She is comfortable. She's in the right spot. This is such a sacred place she's in, and she knows it so well. Like, just the beginning manipulation, even though my midwife is unbelievable, the beginning manipulations, it makes my skin crawl thinking of it. It felt like, don't touch her. Stop trying to forcefully move her. She knows where she needs to be, and this can happen this way. Your body knows how to open up, and the baby knows how to be born. That we don't need to mess with this, is how it almost feels for me. And yeah, it's also physically uncomfortable.
Yeah. Was it painful even? Like, would you say it was painful?
I guess borderline, because that it's uncomfortable enough that you're like, okay, no. Do you know?
Yeah,
I, pain thresholds are so subjective, but
they are.
yeah, it
Yeah.
isn't great. It definitely isn't great.
And at that point, your uterus is stretched so much that that manipulation can feel really intense. I mean, just having your baby at that point kick you and punch you and kind of roll around in you can feel very intense because your uterus is so stretched that I can't imagine having someone try and actually turn your baby. I typically, and look, I never had a breech baby, so I'm saying this from a doula perspective and a human development perspective and a spiritual perspective. I trust babies too, but I trust breech birth. I'm not afraid of it. I trust that the body knows what it's doing, and I trust that babies and their mom's bodies are speaking to one another inside the womb. And I trust that if that baby is breech and not safe to come out, your body will give us other signs that you need help, additional help. And I trust that so, so deeply. Okay, second successful breech birth. Now, fast forward how many years, and we're pregnant with baby number 4.
Yeah. So once again, I'm at like the 3 year mark. This tends to be a little pattern with me. So we're yeah, we're about 3 years, a little bit more, and I'm going. Okay, this is gonna be a breech baby from the start. I'm having a breech baby. Look at the pregnancy test. Oh, another breech baby. Already know. And I'm thinking, like, I was on a bed in a bedroom in South Carolina. Could I not have been on my bed in my bedroom? I had to drive to the birth center, and then I had to drive home 3 hours later, 4 hours later. Could I not just have been right here in my house? I mean, not this exact room. I'm in my daughter's room right now, but you know what I'm saying. I'm like, I could do this at home. And talk to my midwife, and she's, of course you could do this at home. It's the same thing. Let's do this at your house. So, had my first home breech baby. And it was about 3 hours of labor. Now, labor had to get started, which I know not everybody agrees with. That's fine, you do you. But I had so much water that, yeah, my every time my uterus contracted, there was no movement. So it was just like, let's get the show on the road. And we did, and my baby was born 3 hours later. Yeah. Breech.
Another 3 hour labor. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, the midwife that attended your labor at the birth center, was it this same midwife that came to your house?
Yeah.
And they just, what I keep hearing is that they just believe so deeply in you. Not a single person tried to scare you out of this. Not a single provider tried to say, Jessica, this is dangerous. You shouldn't do this. You really would be better off with a C-section. Like, we can't deliver a breech baby. That's kind of crazy. You're negligent for thinking about this. You're negligent for thinking about having a breech baby at home. I mean, that is just
Yeah.
unfit to be a mother. No, nobody ever said any of that stuff to you, which is such a
Well, let me just interrupt you. No provider ever said that to me. Definitely, I heard
mm.
that. I definitely heard that in the community at large. I
Oh,
definitely heard that from family members, potentially friends. There, not everybody believed that it was a wise decision, but yes, my team and I and my husband and my birth team and then a couple close friends and some family believed in it, right? So there were still those words, but there weren't those words from providers, which is huge.
huge, which is such a common narrative, right? That is the rhetoric that so many women are fed. And I think it leads into exactly what I was just sharing a few minutes ago about like women go into this thinking it would be dangerous for me to birth my breech baby. I would be negligent. I would be putting my baby at harm's way. This is why I don't think I can do this. Whereas in your story, you had all of your immediate circle believing so deeply in you, so much so that you were able to take the outside noise and recognize it as just that outside noise from truly uneducated perspectives.
Yes. Yep. That's right. That's right. And so, how many women would be able to do it without even questioning themselves if they had a team that said, "Yeah, of course you can." Then they say, "Of course I can," and then look at what their story would be like, right? So I know there's lots of factors, but let's just say it would be very different if people had supportive teams.
Oh my God, I think we would see 90% plus of breech babies being born vaginally if we could get our providers not only trained but comfortable, and that would it would literally permeate into moms. I mean, it would be a ripple effect, right? You have these really comfortable and confident providers, and not, I mean, yes, confident in themselves, but when I say confident providers, I mean like you truly are confident that this woman can do it, and you instill in her that belief that you can do this. And she's like, okay, I can do this. And you're like, I know you can. And she's like, okay,
Yeah.
I know I can now. And it's just like, a culmination at the end, and then you have this breech birth and everyone in the room is like, see, breech is totally normal and can be absolutely safe. um okay, how did it feel having your first home birth, and how was it really different from the other births that you had had?
Yeah. Great question. I'm in my own bed. I'm in my own house. I am immediately with my baby, somewhere so comfortable to me. With those first moments, there's no other thought of, okay, how do I get home? Okay, I'm going to strap baby in the car seat in a little while or whatever. It's just us, just the golden hour, just figuring out nursing. Just there's not every 20 minutes there's a nurse coming in, flipping on the light, saying, put your legs up, let me do like it was very comfortable, cozy. I had control over the environment. There were so many less factors. And I'm a huge midwife person now, and I had these midwives saying, like, can we go make you something? You need some iron. Let's get you some beef stew. Do you know, it was very totally different. And I mean the birth center was amazing as well, but this was next level for me. And so
Every
when you have
single
those voices of people being like, you're being, like you said, negligent, or even some people saying to me, like, you're putting so much at risk doing this at home. I always think, and often it's people of a generation above.
mm,
And I just think, how have babies been born for decades and decades and decades and generations? Weren't our grandmothers or our great grandmothers having babies at home? They were. Birth got taken out of the home, and it's okay that it's back into the house.
yeah, but you have to think we did skip that generation and they were filled with so much fear, right? Even though, and I always find it so bizarre that you couldn't connect that your mom and your grandmother did it that way, yet you went into the hospital because that's what you were told to do. And now you think your daughter is weird for doing it at home, even though when you look just one generation above you at what your mom did, she did it at home too, right? Or maybe two generations.
Right.
Maybe it was you and your mom were in the hospital and now you think your daughter's the weirdo even though your grandmother was the one that had 10 babies at home. And back then we were having a lot of babies. We weren't just having one or two or three like the traditional American family is now. It was very traditional for you to have six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11 babies. I mean, that's what you did. You just had babies, and the majority of them were born at home.
And some of them were born breech, and you didn't know ahead of time, and you weren't worried
Mm.
for the last 3 weeks of your pregnancy, so scared that your baby was sitting upright because, oh, boom, it was a surprise breech, and it was fine.
Because all of your attendants had those skills back then, right? That's why we didn't need to know. So I know that some people out there are listening being like, well, how dangerous if you didn't know? It wasn't dangerous because there was not this gap in knowledge that we have today. So it's so dangerous not to know now because you would never want to be in a situation like you were with your second where you see a bum and nobody in the room, even your ER doctors, they walk in and they walk out and they're like, "Oh hell no, I'm not touching this." That's what we want to prevent, right? Is if we could get back to the place where everybody, all attendants were trained in breech birth, then you wouldn't have to know. You wouldn't have to spend the last 3 weeks of your pregnancy doing this and that and all the things and stressing yourself out and taking off work so that you can lay on the ironing board and answering emails from, in a funky position and trying to have ice on the top of your belly and heat on the bottom and doing all these things to try and manipulate your child and your cortisol is through the freaking roof. You're never going to go into labor.
Yeah.
It's like we could make birth so much easier and so much better for women if two things. If we just trusted them and we reminded them of that. And number two, if all of our attendants were truly trained to be experts in birth. But I struggle with providers who say, well, I'm an OBGYN, so I'm an expert in birth. And I'm like, great. Tell me how many twin breech deliveries you've done. And they're like, no, I don't do that. I C-section those moms. And I'm like, okay, so that's a skill set you don't have. Got it. Tell me how many breech babies you've seen born vaginally. Oh my God, none. I sectioned those moms too. Okay, so you know how to deliver head down babies. And I'm not mad at you. I just want you to be upfront. I want you to own it. When you say it with your whole chest, say it with your whole chest. You're either an expert or you're not an expert. And if you have two subsets of women that you cannot deliver their babies vaginally because you don't have the skill, not because it's dangerous, you're not an expert in all of birth. You're an expert in head down, usually clinically managed birth. And that's okay. No one's angry at you. But do not try and sell us this lie of, I'm an expert in all birth. No, sir, you're not, ma'am. You're just not. And I get so frustrated at that. And, it really does make me so angry because I feel like a lot of traditionally trained Western medical providers really like to tout their credentials. But then when you look at their credentials, it's like you're missing so much skill. You're
Wow.
missing like really crucial skill that robs women of autonomy. And that's just, it's not okay with me.
Wow.
Can't get with
Really
it.
good, really good points. One thing I kind of want to piggyback on is when I was doing my emergency medical training for being an EMT, they got to the point of, okay, you're called to a birth and there's a bum. Like, this is the height of emergency. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. And I'm like, raising my hand in class. Actually, and so there's even a level of our 911 providers
Mm-hmm.
see this as the most emergent
Mm-hmm.
type of birth that you can happen upon in the field. So the training isn't even just only with the birth providers, it's all the way to our first responders needing
Mm-hmm.
to know that this is how you treat a birth. Okay, this is your little birth kit that you have for if you have to do the birth in the field. And this is your knowledge for if it's not a conventional birth in the field, that's okay. You can still do it.
Are you still an EMT?
Yes.
Do you practice?
So right now I'm on a year leave,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I have been working with my local rescue station.
Cool. So my husband is an EMT and he's been an EMT for
Okay.
almost 15 years. Um,
Wow.
and he, ever since we got pregnant, so what he does, just like historically, this is not new since we got pregnant. His CEUs revolve around like the most rare things that he may happen upon because he
Yeah.
feels very comfortable in seizures and cardiac arrest and the things that you typically get called for. He's like, I get regular practice in those in the field, right? So he is not an EMT as a careerist. He is in healthcare administration, which is so ironic because all I do is, you know, hold healthcare administration accountable. I just want to have discussions about how can we do things better for the people who are within our system. And but through his work as an EMT, he is always and firefighter, I guess. He has always said like I get plenty of practice with all the most common things. And so one of the things I want to know are like the rare things. Like I never want to happen upon a situation and I think to myself like damn, I should have taken a CEU about this. I should have been more prepared. Since being pregnant, he has used this year's CEUs to become really well versed in birth out in the field.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
it is really cool. And it's just very special to see him like take that initiative. And, it's just a big old heart gush as if I didn't love the man enough. I just fall in love with him every day, even more through this process. But his most recent one that he took actually last week was about breech birth. And
Really?
yes, and the current recommendations for our EMTs are to just let it happen. The
What?
EMT book. So we're in Massachusetts, so I don't know if it changes state to state, but in the state of Massachusetts, which I think that he was taken, I think your CEUs are national thing, but the latest recommendations for EMTs are to just stabilize the mother
You're kidding.
and to just they literally say like don't do anything, don't encourage labor, but don't try and stop it, don't put your hands on that baby, stabilize her and get her to the hospital, and you can just trust that her body will do what it needs to do. I don't know if there was any sort of follow up on things like entrapment, which is a real thing. It's rare, but it's real. However, one of the things that we're doing to prepare for our birth is I am having him take the same training that our team has taken for multiple years now, 4 years now, from Breech Without Borders. And it teaches what to do in certain presentations and how to help a breech baby out should they experience a little bit of complication, but most of them can be resolved with a variety of maneuvers, just like we do with head down babies, right?
Right.
People
Right.
hear like
Exactly.
maneuvers and they're like, oh my God, but it's like you do a maneuver to resolve shoulder dystocia in a head down baby every day. We never
Yep.
think that's crazy and intrusive. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's just a
Wow,
little
look
side
at
note.
you guys training the first responders on Breech.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
incredible.
I love it
Wow,
so much.
that's
And
amazing.
like I say, I heard him down there taking that class, and afterwards I was like, what was that? And he was like, oh, that was my like CEU. I did like a Breech CEU,
I did a
Breech in the
hands-off
field.
Breech.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, if I was not already pregnant, I would be getting pregnant
You
literally
got
right
pregnant
now.
again.
Yeah. Like you are just, oh my God, I just love you so much. Okay. That's amazing. I love this. All right. We still have two more births. Are they
Yeah,
both at home?
they're both at home.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So fast forward how many years? And now we're on to our fifth baby.
Yeah, so now we're 2 years. And we're on to baby number 5. And yeah, it's pretty much cookie cutter the same story. And he came in about 3 hours and the same position almost that I was in for my other one on my bed, at my bed. That really worked for me. So I tried that again. And this time, the main difference was I had less people. So definitely my way or my preference is to have it as few people as possible. I know not everybody's cup of tea, but definitely for me. And I had sort of with the last one, I'd had an extra person on the team, and I thought, okay, no, I know that that was a little distracting for me, and that changed sort of the conversation in the room and a little bit of the vibe. So I would like these people because I know this will be very calm and quiet. And also, I definitely have a midwife who can read me very well, and she reads when should I be engaging, when should I be giving suggestion, and yeah, there's my baby. There's my breech baby. And once again, all of the pushing times were, I think the longest one might have been about 6 minutes. And so this is another one just like that. I have my baby, my fourth breech baby.
Absolutely insane. Okay, tell us about that privacy because it's something that we talk so often about in birth is that how important privacy is. Who was with you? Your husband, your midwife? Was that
Mm-hmm.
everybody?
No. So for my last few babies, I've had my husband, my midwife, and then my midwife's apprentice, who happens to be one of my best friends.
Okay.
And so it's like having a sister in the room. And also, they work so well together, my midwife and her. And so that's been an incredible team. And they both know me so well and can read at this point where I'm at in the birth. And I'm comfortable asking them all the questions because I'm the kind of birther who's like, am I progressing? Is this right? Should I do that? I kind of chat a lot. And so they're the perfect team to have. And then, of course, my husband. And then in that the last 3 births I've had my eldest daughter in on them because she's just the perfect doula.
My God, I love that so much. I love it that you are exposing her to birth. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what so many kids are missing. I dream of this day where, oh my God, it's gonna make me cry. I dream of this day where we just have this house full of kids and I just like have babies at home and they think that that's normal even though their mom is the crunchy hippie in the community. I really I dream of the day that I get to frame a picture of me in a birth pool having a baby and all my other children are like hanging on the side of it looking at their new sibling being born or me holding their new sibling and they that it's just like that's what our family does. It's like just what the norm is in our
Yes.
house.
Yes.
That is just so sweet. Oh my gosh, that got me. That really got me.
Yes,
Um
that'll happen.
Yeah, I know that it will. I feel it innately like in my bones. I can feel it deep in my soul that one day I will have that experience and we'll just have a bunch of kids running around and pushing out babies will be kind of what I do on a Friday afternoon and then, we're back to school on Monday and
Well, if he keeps taking those
casual.
birth EUs.
You got it. I'm gonna be pregnant the next day after I have this baby. You got it. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, last baby. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so for me, once again, at this point, there's no question she's going to be Breech. I mean, she might not. My first one wasn't, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to have another Breech baby. And at this point, which I haven't met a lot of people who feel this way. I know they're out there. If you're out there, contact me. I'm hoping she's Breech. I want another Breech baby. This is so great. This is what I love. This is how I love to birth. Please be Breech. I'm praying that my midwife is constantly feeling a head up here and that it always feels the same. And um yeah, I'm really excited to have this baby and I know, okay, this is how I like to do it in my room. This is where I like to be near my bed. I like to be near the end of my bed. I like to be like in a squatting position. I'm already planning all these things. I have the same birth team. This time, I would say the only thing is I'm I don't exactly know all the medical ways to say this perfectly, but my uterus has muscle memory and my uterus knows I've had a ton of babies. So even my Braxton Hicks are kind of intense. Everything has notched up a level. So I'm having to be very aware. How far along am I even into this labor? Because do I have many more hours of this or am I getting close? It's I have to be so much more in tune at this point because I'm feeling every single little thing. And yeah, it's another 3 hours and I have my sweet baby girl. And then my midwife says, "Oh, there's the baby that you make," because all my babies look the same. So I've just been like copy pasting this for however many years. And watching, so my eldest talked to my baby the entire pregnancy, just was right up where her ears would be, speaking to her the whole time. And I would say, even my husband is a man of few words. My eldest, probably my baby, knew her voice even better than his, right? Because other than me, she's heard my eldest talk the whole time. And then when I had her and she's in my arms and I'm just looking at her and speaking to her, and my daughter comes over and starts talking to her, my baby turns and looks at her. Just it's within the first few seconds of her being born, and she just like turns and looks, and it's just this recognition that she knew her sister so well, she knew her voice, and still to this day their relationship is like amazing.
Oh my God. Okay. That really got me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you think that you were hoping for a breech birth because that's what was familiar to you and that, like, you've done it so many times, that was kind of your norm?
There's partly that where this is comfortable to me, but it's not to where the other wouldn't have been comfortable to me. The other to me is like, oh, if I'm gonna have that head down baby, it's gonna be boring. That's gonna be like my baby's gonna come out in the same amount of time. No, let's do it this way. This is so fun. Let's do what we do, you know? But either way I would have been totally happy. And either way my body would have done it and the baby would have done it. The interesting thing about her though was she was complete breech. So
Oh.
instead of being frank, which all the others were, where their legs were kind of up in a pike position,
And their
her
butt
legs,
comes down first, everybody who's listening, who's like, what's
yes,
Frank breech? Your Frank breech is their butt is first.
yes. So complete breech is frank. Their legs are up to their basically by their head, and complete. They're more in crisscross applesauce in the womb. So actually, HeHe, a lot of footling breeches are
Uh-huh.
really just a complete breech, but the feet kind of
Dangle
just come
down.
first.
Yep.
Yeah. So instead of like my other ones came out folded and then baby was there hanging folded and then one leg releases, the other leg releases, then baby comes out more, then head. This was more like bloop legs and then baby's hanging there and then head. So she was almost even faster in the actual, and it was one contraction and she was out.
Mm.
So the pushing was my fastest pushing because it was really, when you have a breech baby, you're almost not contracting at that point. You just have to give it your all. And then she was out in one contraction.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it's because the uterus can't really orient itself because instead of having a big body in there to compress down, it's the top of their body, right? So for anyone listening and you're like, why would you not be contracting? Very normal. It's like that's classic breech. And again, your uterus doesn't really have too much to kind of like push down on because it's a head and it's shoulders and it's not like a whole body like a cephalic head down baby would be. Okay. Did you what how was it different pushing out the diameter of butts and legs compared to your first baby, which was head down?
That's a good question. I think part of me can't fully answer that because I was laying on my back. So
Oh.
I didn't feel it the same way. I have been able to with my breech babies, the ones that were I was on all fours and I was in a squatting position, sort of feel all the movements that are happening and feel the but on my back giving birth both times was different. It
Mhm.
was definitely a different way to push and a different amount of feeling. Also, the first time is a total fever dream. I remember it all, but it's like a fever dream. So all of the feelings of it are so intense because it was my first birth. If I went back now and did my first birth again, I don't know that it would have been as intense of a birth. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I'm experiencing these things for the first time. So probably her tiny little 5 pound head coming out felt like the craziest thing that's ever happened. But at this point, it would probably be like, you know?
Pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
Just
Like if
quicker.
I had a cephalic baby next, I'd probably say, oh, that was a split second. It was fine, you know?
Mm, yeah. That muscle memory is really powerful.
Yeah.
Your body does keep the score. It definitely
It
knows
does.
what it's doing.
Yes.
Did you know that your sixth baby was going to be your last baby? Or maybe you're not done. Maybe you're like, she's not going to be my last baby.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that one. I'm sure I already know there's some people out there who are hoping it's us. We'll leave that where that is. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say for sure. I don't have the full I'm done feeling.
Yep.
But at the same time, there are days where I'm like, oh, okay, we're at max. But you know what?
How
I
would
feel
I
like
do another child?
yeah. I feel like I'm always at max. And when some women say, "Oh, I have two babies. I don't know how you do it with six." I think when I was at two babies, I didn't know how I did it either. You know, and then I when I was at three babies, I didn't know how I was going to do it with three babies. And for it's you're always at your very
Do
max.
it.
So,
Yeah. You just figure it out. That's
yeah.
like, it's a mom. It's a mom thing. You figure it out. Okay. I thought that I would ask you about like tips to turning your baby and tips to this and that, but I don't want to. I don't want to ruin this episode with tainting people's idea that breech might be wrong in any way or that there's any reason for us to attempt to change your baby's position
Yeah.
if you trust them and you trust your body and you have the confidence to do that. So I think my last question to you would be, what advice do you have to moms that are listening with a breech baby and they don't have a team that's as supportive as the ones that you have been blessed with?
Yes. Excellent question. My first thing would be you can fire your team and find a supportive team. I believe that there's a team out there for you. It might mean a little bit of travel. Be willing to travel an hour, be willing to get a hotel and go to a birth center or relocate. Be willing to consider it. If it won't blow your anxiety out the roof, consider it. But be okay with saying, no, I don't owe my current providers anything. I
Mm-hmm.
don't owe this doctor. I don't owe this nurse. I don't owe this person. I don't owe my parents. I don't owe my in laws. I don't owe my friends. You don't owe those people to have to do something a certain way. You don't have to be afraid or stuck. You're not stuck in that situation. A lot of people feel bad. They feel bad saying, but I've been with this person, but this person did my prenatal. But that's okay. And that was really nice of them to do that. But it's okay that you go and get the birth you want. And it's okay that you trust your baby. And it's okay that you go and pursue the right team for you.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. You guys, this was such a good episode. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, Jessica, where can people find you, connect with you, hear more about your stories, learn more from you, and maybe share their breech stories or get some educational information from you if they have a breech baby themselves?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I would love to connect people with the right team. If you feel stuck in that situation, that's exactly where you are and you need help, come find me at sign breech birth on Instagram, or I do have a website, thebreechbook.com. So either of those two places, reach out to me. I would love to get back to you. I would love to connect with you. I want to hear your birth story. I want to, you come to my page and you can have encouragement. That's what this is about. You can go see all the things out there, but then just come here if you need encouragement at sign breech birth.
I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here. You guys,
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
of course, I will never shut up about breech birth not being dangerous. It is a variation of normal. All of our providers should be trained in breech. You deserve that. We deserve that as women. We deserve that as people who are growing our families. Your babies deserve the chance to be born breech and not be forced into a surgical birth. Your babies deserve to be born breech if they so choose and not be forced into a procedure like an ECV if that's not feeling aligned to you because you can feel that your baby is just meant to be in a different position and you trust that. I will literally die on this hill. I will. I'm never ever going to stop talking about it. Breech is normal. Breech can be safe. We've got some obvious gaps in knowledge and skill set in our country, and I am on a really committed mission to close that gap and to make sure that each and every one of you out there are getting the care that you deserve. Thank you for showing up for us today. Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your stories. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, listeners, really, I think recognizing when your provider has served out their time with you is so powerful. I love that Jessica says you don't owe them anything. So just because you've been with them for 20 weeks, 26 weeks, 28 weeks, 36 weeks, you can change at any time. Of course, I recognize what maternity care deserts present as a lack of access in our country, but don't be afraid to travel. Don't be afraid to call around. Don't be afraid to hire someone out of state. Don't be afraid to do the work in your due diligence to find the people that can support you so that you can have the births that you want. And do not be afraid to recognize this provider has done a great job up until this point, but they are no longer serving me in the capacity that I need to be able to have an informed, confident, and autonomous birth. Oh my gosh, I'll be here forever on end reminding you of that. Okay, you guys, I love hanging out with you. You know this. I tell you every single time we get to hang out. And I'm so excited that this episode really highlighted just how positive breech birth can be. All right, y'all, I will see you in the next episode. Be sure to follow Jessica on social media, and you can find me at Tranquility by HeHe and at the.birth.lounge. Until next time, head to your app store and download the Birth Lounge app for evidence-based childbirth education and data-driven postpartum support delivered straight to your phone. Bye! Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love hanging out with you, and it is an honor to be your go-to gal when it comes to preparing for your baby. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and tell others why they should be listening to the Birth Lounge podcast too. You deserve to have a birth that you love with a provider that values your autonomy and respects informed consent without all the trauma that you so commonly hear about on social media. New episodes air every Wednesday and Friday. Hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. I'm HeHe, and this is the Birth Lounge Podcast.